MMA, the season that never ends. All begins with MMA Lockup.
Welcome back to the show, folks. I'm Chris Matthews. Make sure you check out the website, MMALockup.com. We're also Facebook and Twitter at MMALockup. On the line, we have a fighter, a UFC fighter, welterweight, going to be taking on Rick Story at UFC 167. It's my pleasure to have on the show Brian Ebersole. Brian, it's fight week. Things are hectic. Where are you at right now in the mix for your preparation?
Preparation for me right now, honestly, today was just checking in with the UFC staff, getting my media commitments for the next couple of days, figuring out what time they needed me for the weigh-in and obviously fight day to be like in staging areas and kind of sequestered by the staff there. But yeah, I've been out here in Vegas for 3 or 4 weeks. I finished my camp out here with a couple training partners. And, yeah, I'm fit and ready to go for Saturday.
Brian, before we get to your fight with Rick Story, I've been hearing about this thing. It's starting to become somewhat the rage. I find it extremely intriguing. What's this fun-to-fighter thing going on right now that is really in the corner of the fighters in the sport? You
know what? I came across Fun to Fighter through another athlete's campaign, and I actually made a donation because he had a pretty compelling story. This fellow, Brian Rogers, he had a campaign, and he took all the funding that came to him, and he actually gave back, so it wasn't just donations to his cause. He actually gave something back, whether that was an experience, a piece of memorabilia, something like that. But what struck me about him is he's a teacher at a school out in the Midwest, and what he did was he used those funds to kind of keep his cash flow proper while he took 6 weeks off of work. And after his fight paycheck came in, he actually gave those donated contributions back to the school that he worked with. So while he did use those funds to kind of get him from the time he stopped working all the way through the fight, he actually didn't keep those funds. So I thought that was a pretty awesome thing. So I donated to him. He used those funds, and then they ended up going to buy, I think, computers for a school. So that really impressed me with Fun to Fighter, because I knew it was something that they created. It's not some blueprint that everyone goes off of. The athletes have a big hand in helping create their own campaign. So when I contacted them about doing one for me at 167 for my comeback fight, we had a little bit of creative time, and I put out a grand prize of letting a fan be in my corner for the 20th anniversary show, which is UFC 167 out here at the MGM Grand. And that got a lot of buzz and a lot of positive feedback. And on down the line, that was kind of the main draw, but everything else was, autographed memorabilia, T-shirts, training experiences in Thailand, seminars while I'm here in the United States, and things of that nature. So I don't know, I'm pretty impressed with Fun to Fighter in the sense that they're connecting fans straight to the athlete. And in a sense, when you think of like trading cards and memorabilia, they're almost cutting out the middleman a little bit, and they're basically letting us athletes have a little bit of profit and control of our own brand and likeness, which in this sport is something that a lot of people don't really get. The promotions usually take that kind of thing and run with it. We're talking to UFC welterweight going to be taking on Rick Story at UFC 167, Brian Ebersole. Brian, touch on a little bit of the fighter experience. How tough is it for a fighter that has a full-time job but still yet trying to fight as well in preparation for MMA, especially at the highest level of the UFC? There's not much room for error. No, I mean, I mentioned Brian Rogers, and he was a guy that was working a full-time job, and he's over in Bellator, and he makes a decent wage for MMA, but compared to other professional sports, it's definitely not on par. So I know a lot of these guys are working like construction jobs and working in bars and things like that while they're still making $2,000 and $3,000 a fight, and it's a really tough way to go. I mean, you can't rack up enough fights in a year to make a $30,000 payday at that level. So this kind of Fun to Fighter organization and being able to again use your likeness and stay within your sport, something that you enjoy, is really helpful. Personally, I got lucky, and my last couple of jobs have all been coaching jobs. So I've been able to stay in the gym, and even while I'm trying to help others and coach and do that, it actually helps me add some breadth and depth to my game, being able to mentally at least explore what I do, why I do it, and then learn from other people. So, again, being in the gym a lot, that's a gift for me. But a lot of guys, even in my position, don't have that luxury. So something like this to come along as an alternative form of revenue for these guys is huge.
How can fans take advantage of the experience that you're speaking of?
Fundafighter.com is a website set up, and right there on their main page, they've got photos of probably 10 athletes at the moment that have campaigns running. Most of us are on different paths doing different things, different shows, and all of us have a unique story, and we're all offering a unique set of, I guess, prizes, if you will, back to the fans. I know some guys are offering 1 month and 3 month memberships to local gyms in their area, offering private lessons, offering tickets to their next fight. Which is something I did on two different levels. One was obviously being able to walk down to the cage with me at this upcoming show, 167, and the other was just ticket in the arena and being able to be part of my group for the whole weekend and see some of the behind the scenes stuff at the UFC. So yeah, it's pretty neat. So fundafighter.com. Again, has about 10 or 12 campaigns running right now, and you can click on any of the athletes' photos, and it's going to open up the entire campaign, a little bit of background info about each fighter. We all did a little bit of a video. I tried to make mine a bit funny and catchy. Well, I did that while I was over in Thailand and kind of showed off the gym that I'm training at over there. And yeah, hopefully all of us have a bit of success, and this Fund to Fighter program can grow. And right now it's a grassroots thing, but hopefully it becomes a bit of an integral part in MMA.
We're talking to Brian Ebersole, UFC welterweight fighter, going to be taking on Rick Story at UFC 167, and we'll go ahead and embed that video into our Facebook and our website as well. It is pretty funny. I have to admit, I watched it beforehand. You like to get the pedicure, huh?
Absolutely, yeah. My fiance's been a major influence on me. She's got me on cappuccinos and exfoliation and all that kind of stuff in the last couple of years. So yeah, I have a bit of fun with it every now and again.
Talking about Rick's story, you're talking about a wrestler. You yourself, I found quite interesting. Man, you started wrestling at kindergarten. Tell us a little bit about that and how much wrestling's impacted your life, because it's been in your life pretty much since your existence.
Yeah, I don't remember really anything but, to be honest. I mean, I started wrestling at 5 years old. My grandfather was the founder of the Kids Club, the youth program in my hometown in Bradley-Bourbonnais over in Illinois. And I'd watched my high school wrestle a couple times. One of my uncles on the team. And when they asked me if I wanted to wrestle the first time, I was 4.5, 5 years old. I told my dad no. 2 days later, I said, "Dad, that wrestling thing, can I go to practice?" Because the season was just starting. And once I got in the room, between the actual activity itself drawing me in, the social aspect and having a kid my own age, my own size, to kind of be rough and tumble with as opposed to the school, the classroom setting, it was quite nice. So if I had my choice, PE would have consisted of wrestling and football probably my whole school years. So yeah, it's played a huge role. And Rick's going to be the second guy with a wrestling background that I've faced in the octagon here for the UFC, and he's going to be quite a challenge. He's a very strong, stocky fella, and he's very, very aggressive even with his hands. So it's definitely going to be one of those fights that I'm going to come out a little bit sore. And thankfully, my cousin from Illinois is a chiropractor, and he's coming out here for this fight to treat me before and after the fight. So hopefully I'll be all right on Sunday.
Brian, what are some advantages you feel like you bring to this bout with Rick Story at UFC 167?
I'm taller than him, which is helpful, so the range is there. I've had a lot more fights than him. Some people could look at that as an advantage with experience. Other people might say, "Oh, I've had more time in my career to get punched in the head." But I've come through pretty healthy. I haven't had major injuries in my career, except this last year and a half, which I've recovered from. So, yeah, I think my advantages are definitely being the wily veteran, being a bit unorthodox, and being the taller fighter.
Have you brought anybody in to mimic your opponent, Rick Story?
Yeah, actually, I brought a fella from Melbourne, Australia, over named Ryan Pine. He's just here with me now, and I flew him over specifically to be, my training partner. Again, coming off of an injury, I definitely wanted to be careful going into this fight, and I need someone that was here just for me. And I've also got a local in Vegas, Ryan Diaz, who's a really good stand-up fighter, so he's been doing a lot of my mitt work with me. So having those two guys has been really, really helpful. I came out to Vegas about 3 to 4 weeks early before the fight, and I'm coming into a place that's really not my home. And there's a lot of UFC fighters floating around here, and they're great to work out with, on paper, but when you really get in the room and you're always, wrestling or boxing or sparring with these UFC guys, they're getting prepared for fights too, and they're going to be that little bit selfish wanting to do their own work. So I have to kind of use those guys sparingly and get my rounds in with them sparingly, and then kind of back off the intensity a little bit. So it's been great having these guys to be able to come in and play a certain role and really help me work in that middle range where it's not 100% and full-on sparring where I'm taking damage to my body leading into a fight.
Brian, what do you do to relax before a fight to get that mind clear? Because, you got to be as sharp as a mosquito's needle.
Being out here, I got pretty lucky. I found myself another gamer in Ryan Diaz. He's got a couple video game systems set up in his house, so we've been playing some first-person shooters and running around a bit on the PlayStation 3. Also, just even walking around Vegas and staring at architecture and watching shows. We've seen Blue Man Group and Chris Angel, and I'm hoping to get in one more show possibly before fight night, maybe on the Friday night after the weigh-in, and I'm back up. Feeling good and I guess rehydrated and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much me. Pretty simple, watch a movie with the fiance and lay around and try to be soft and balance out this whole fighter thing with the lover side of me.
Brian, I know we only have a little bit more time and get a couple fight picks from you. Who you like between GSP and Johnny Hendricks?
I'm emotionally kind of rooting for GSP. I really hope he wins this fight, and the rumor is he may retire in the octagon after this fight. That's something that his mentor/coach has put out there publicly recently, and I think that would be an amazing way for him to end his career and end his reign as a very dominant welterweight champion. But some insiders think that Johnny Hendricks has what it takes to beat him. So in that sense, I'm not putting my money down on that fight. But yeah, that's the big one everyone's talking about. And then there's a couple other massive welterweight fights. So for my weight class, there's going to be a huge shift at the top of the division with 3 and 4 pretty big fights in the weight class.
Another wrestler, Chris Weidman, going to be taking on Anderson Spider Silva next month. Who do you like in that fight?
Man, that is a tough one to call. I sure didn't see the first fight ending the way it did. Anderson just got a little bit carried away with trying to put on a show and being silly. I believe he is the superior fighter when you put all the pieces together. But he went out and he let Chris Weidman kind of show that he wasn't superhuman. And I think that confidence might carry over. And the All-American boy just might hold on to that belt and run through the division for a little while.
Brian, what is your MMA lockup guarantee with your bout at UFC 167 with fellow wrestler Rick Story?
Oh, there will be a finish to this fight. I plan on putting some hands on him and getting a finish. So, yeah, the smart money's on me in this one.
Before we let you go, how can fans reach out to Brian Ebersole on the World Wide Web?
I'm on Twitter, and there it's my handle is @TWAS Ebersole. On Facebook, I've got a fan page, which is facebook.com/Ebersole MMA. And you can obviously see me on Fun to Fighter, funtofighter.com.
What was that again? Where can fans find you and help support you, the fighter?
www.fundafighter.com.
Brian, it's a pleasure having you on. I hope to have you on again. Go out and get you a W, man. Get a little closer to that title shot.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.
Definitely. That was Brian Ebersole takes on Rick Story at UFC 167. Make sure you check him out. Check out Fun to Fighter. And check us out at MMALockup.com. More to come when we get back.
When it's MMA go time, it's MMA Lockup Showtime.